Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me know if you guys can see my audio or hear my audio and see my screen in the chat box. Just give me a little Y or yes there, just to let me know that it is indeed working. Happy Friday. Just want to welcome everybody here. Let's go ahead and get started. And let's go over our disclaimer real quick. As always, I need to remind you about the risks involved in this market. You can lose all or more than your initial investment if you're not careful. So please be aware of how many pips you're risking on each trade, in addition to how big your lot size is, and ultimately how that would affect your account if you were to lose money. So make sure that you're going through that process each and every time that you take a trade. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and go through our COT report. Let's go ahead and update that. Let me pull this up, COT. And let's go ahead and close our trades that are still open. So let me pull up my app here and let's get these trades closed. And not a lot changed from last night, so that's good. So yeah, let's close the pound franc first. This one I'm closing for 20 pip or minus 20 pips. So that one's a loser. The USD yen, that one's our big one. That one's up 294. So I'm going to close that one right now. So that made 294. USD franc, that one's up 5 pips. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And that is our final result right there for the week on the COT trades. So it's a good week. You know, we made 368 pips in profit. And I actually, real quickly, I want to show you guys this. Let me actually finish this up because here, this doesn't change. Yesterday I went through I went over and back tested a few weeks, and not just a few weeks, a couple of months, and I wanted to see if it made any difference to use a trailing stop versus not using a trailing stop. Let's check this. I got to check the NZD yen. Let's see if that one would have closed out. We already know that one closed out on our own because of the trailing stop. I'm just curious to see if it would have been different. Just want to see if it would have been different this week. So that's what I'm trying to figure out real quick. Give me 1 second here. Let's go to NZD yen. I'm not changing, just so everyone knows, I'm not changing anything going into next week, just because from my back testing, it actually didn't make a huge difference, but I'll share my results so far. I'm not done back testing though. So with this NZD yen, you would have started around here on the weekend in this yellow area, and you would have closed right now, you'd be up 35 pips. Okay, so you would have made, yep, just slightly more than the trailing stop that got closed out. The NZD franc, that one closed at its stop loss, so that one would not have changed. The pound yen, let's see if how that one did to end the week. Looks like it's up today. Yeah, this one really went crazy this week. We started here. Our trade, because of the trailing stop, got pulled out on that move right there. So we still made, I think, what was it, like 100 and something pips on that trade. But if we were still in it, we would be currently up on the pound yen 312 pips approximately. So that would be the result, 312. Okay, and then on the pound franc, that would not have changed. We just barely closed that one out. Dollar yen would not have changed. We also just barely closed that one out. And the USD franc would not have changed because we also closed that one out. So that's kind of interesting. I'm curious if you didn't use the trailing stop this week, let us know. I'm just curious. Or if you had an account where you didn't use a trailing stop, I'm just curious to see how things would have played out. But yeah, without the trailing stop this week, you would have made 577 pips on the COT trades. And with the trailing stop, we ended up making, well, this is from my account. So from my account with the trailing stop, I made 368 pips on the week. So, you know, that's something to look at. You look at some of the other weeks, I did back test pretty much all the way through June last night. And I'm going to continue to do that this weekend. It takes a little bit of effort because you have to basically double check that it wouldn't have hit the stop loss, or if it would have hit the stop loss, you need to make sure that gets back tested into there. So it does take a little bit of work. In fact, I don't see Ben, but we'll give him a shout out. He did that huge long back test for 2.5 years on the COT report, and wow, just huge respect, because that takes a ton of work to do something like that. I've pretty much just done forward tests. Like, we've just keep trading it and then get new results. See, plus 320 on the pound yen, that's what you got, and then plus 301 on the USD yen. That's amazing. That's just, yeah, we have about the same result on the USD yen, just, a few pips off. But yeah, the pound yen's quite different because of, my trailing stop engaged, and so I closed out for plus 117, but not using one would have made 312. So it definitely raises an eyebrow, doesn't it? Worth looking into. And then last week you actually would have done a little bit worse, not a ton, but you would have done a little bit worse last week without a trailing stop. They would have been pretty similar though. You would have had minus 12 here, and a minus 98 is what you would have done. That's how you would have performed last week. That 3 weeks ago, when we had kind of our, top 3 worst loss of the year, that was like, mid-July type of thing, pretty bad week. It wouldn't have made a difference. Which actually brings up another observation. I hope this is valuable, by the way. Like I just want to spend time, whatever you guys want to spend time on. So if this is not valuable, let me know. And by the way, today I am going to be setting up price action trades. We're going to do straight price action, break structure, looking for trend breaks, that kind of thing. We're going to go straight that in just a moment. But I do want to just spend a few moments on this, if that's okay. So my observation, I don't know what you guys think about this, but my observation on this week right here is if it didn't make a difference, okay, so follow me on this. If it didn't make a difference on the week where we had a pretty bad losing week, then what that tells us is that we should probably tighten the stop loss, like the hard stop needs to be tightened, because we need to consider at least closing out some of these losing trades a little earlier. Okay, so we're doing a good job by getting out of losing trades, because had you not used a stop loss on this week, you would have lost a lot more. So yeah, you do want to stop out. But if you look at the trades, and let me give you another observation, at least something to think about. And if you guys want to email me with your ideas, you know me, I'm all game for that. Definitely share your ideas. But so compare this week, which has been a pretty decent week, compared to the pretty big losing week we had 3 weeks ago, which we're still recovering from. So I'm hoping that some of this momentum continues into next week. But so far, so good, right? We can only just continue and hope for more. Can't really change the result. We just kind of do what the COT report tells us to do. But here's the thing about this winning week. So if you go look at a lot of the winning trades this week, like for example, this pound yen, yeah, let's use this pound yen as an example. So for those of you that didn't use a trailing stop, you made 300 something pips on the week. Amazing on a single trade. For those of you like me who had a trailing stop, you only made, approximately 117 pips or something like that. Look how much drawdown there was to start the week. Like none, right? So what does that mean? Well, it means on a week like this, you could have gotten away with a pretty tight stop loss and really rode this thing a long way. Okay. Can you do that every week? No, not really. But could you have gone a long ways? Yes, you could have, right? So something to think about. Like, you go look at the dollar yen, you could have gone a long ways. Look, the drawdown on the weekend was hardly anything, and now here we are today, right here, right? So let's cherry pick this a little bit. The ideal setup would have been, a tight 30 pip stop loss or something like that on the weekend. So go to Sunday, put in something tight like 30, 35 pips, and then no trailing stop, put in a bigger lot size. That would have been the recipe that would have I mean, that would have been perfect. Now that's not going to work every single week, but I am noticing something as I do some back testing, that it does appear that if the market's going to have a winning week, typically the market likes to go pretty quickly. Like it'll win pretty quickly. And when there's a losing week, it tends to lose pretty quickly. And if that's the observation that we're making, then there should be some more research. I hope this makes sense. So here's my theory. So we should research more into the idea of closing out faster if the trade's not going to work out because of that observation, right? So two things led me to that conclusion, or at least to that theory. On this losing week, the fact that it made no difference to have a trailing stop or not, no difference, then that means that we should have just closed these trades. Well, in fact, we shouldn't have taken these trades, but how would you have known that, right? So the best thing we could have done is just close earlier, stop out earlier. And this week, the best thing we could have done is no trailing stop and a much tighter stop loss, bigger lot size. That's how you would have really crushed this week even more. So that's my thought. I do want to look into that a little deeper, but that's where I'm going with the COT report. So for next week, I don't want you guys to change anything. I'm still looking into this, and I welcome your participation as I continue to diagnose and look into how we can improve the COT report. But for now, just go into, you're going to get your trades tomorrow. I'm going to send those out late tomorrow night, or even tonight. It just depends whenever I get to the computer. Sometime this weekend, you'll get your trades. And I don't want to send them out Sunday, though. So I'll try a little harder this time to get them out a little earlier for you guys. And then just go like normal. Don't change any, place your trade Sunday night in your account whenever you normally do it. And again, my recommendation on that is that you wait till Tokyo opens. And for reference, write this down if you need to. Tokyo opens at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. So write that down and make sure you know that. So anytime after 8 p.m. Eastern is probably pretty good. Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. It looks like this week and last week, the earlier the better. So the closer to Tokyo would have been better. Some weeks it's better to wait, you just never know. So I just think you just get in when you can get in, right? All right, guys. So let's see here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to, so how far back did I get? I got to, oh yeah, here's another observation. I went all the way back to that very big winning week we had in June, the one that made 1,286 pips. And another interesting thing, it wouldn't have made a difference had you used a trailing stop that week or not. So there you go. You would have another example of the theory playing out correctly. So again, how do we improve that based off of the theory so far? Well, it looks like on the winning weeks, generally speaking, you can just have a tighter stop loss in general. On the losing weeks, it probably would be good to just get out faster, right? So that's something I'm looking into. All right, guys. So that's about it with the COT report. Good week in the books, very needful week. The last time we had a winning week similar to this was, you have to go back to the end of June right here, I believe. Yeah, you have to. So pretty big dry spell. It's not normal. I mean, it happens, but I guess it's more typical in the summertime, to have kind of a drier spell like that. We've had a couple of okay weeks like right here, and a couple of losing weeks that weren't that bad. But there were several, not so good weeks. Like this is a not so good week right here. This is definitely a very stressful week when you have a week like that. That's hard to recover from immediately. It takes several weeks to recover from that loss we had 3 weeks ago. So now we just press forward and we continue on and we book these profits away, and then we move on to move on to the next trades. Yes, that's the next question, Brooks. And yep, you've got it. So then the question would be, how much do we tighten our stop loss? 25 to 50%. And that's going to take some time to figure out what's the best thing to do. You know, do we tighten it up? Yeah, I don't think going more than 50% would make sense, because if you tighten it up more than 50%, you're just not giving it a lot of room at all to fluctuate during the week. I think maybe we consider more immediately after I finish what I'm doing, to maybe do a 3/4 of an average daily range, something like that. Because that last, how many trades recover after they've gone 75% of the way to your stop loss? Think, like, that's a good question, I think, right? How, like, a lot of them can recover if they draw down, 25% of the way to the stop loss, maybe 50% of the way to the stop loss, they recover. But once you get to that last 75 to 100% of the way to the stop loss, they're duds at that point. They don't, I don't think they recover that often, right? So that's just some extra money that we could probably save, because we really don't know how to, I mean, I don't know how to, I wish I could be a better stock picker or currency pair picker. But we already have a method for that. And I don't know if we really want to change that a ton. So I think where we're going to shave off losses is probably the best place for us to go, as far as improving the strategy without making it more complicated. Maybe the full average daily range is a little too much, but something 25 to 50% makes sense. So I like your thought process on that. Darwin says, I thought the NZD yen and NZD franc would have done best based on data. Yeah, so that's a great question. This happens a lot. If you look at the journal real quick, Darwin, some weeks the top currency pairs perform the best. This week it was the third best and the fifth best that actually performed the best. Yeah, because I actually had a thought several months ago. I thought, what if we were to just trade the number one currency and that's it, and just put more money behind the number one? Well, ironically, I couldn't actually find that the number one currency pair was outperforming some of the others consistently. Is it worth skipping the number one currency? No, definitely not. There's plenty of weeks where the number one currency is fantastic. So I wouldn't skip out on it, and I also wouldn't put more capital on the number one or number two currencies. I would just take all six as if they're equal. Okay. But yeah, I see where that's coming from. It would make more sense that the Kiwi would be pretty strong, but it didn't. I imagine though that those two currency pairs will probably have some really good weeks coming up. I've noticed that to be, if they don't have a really good week right now, I've often seen them have really good weeks, the following week or 2 weeks later. So hopefully these two stick around into next week as signals, and we can trade those again, right? Great question. Lee says, I love this. Finally, really find this really helpful. Okay, good. I'm glad this is helpful. So yeah, I'll continue to back test what I can find. Two things I want to accomplish with the back test. Number one, I want to find out if trailing stops even make sense, period. And the second thing I want to find out is more along with what Brooks was saying. So if we can cut the loss, how much is that going to be? Where does it make more sense to, how deep can we cut the stop loss every week and make that the official thing going forward? Gotcha. And then Darwin says, on the flip side, I tried to take tighter entries based on demand levels on COT, and most of them didn't even trigger. Yeah. So this is one of those weeks where the COT trades just went immediately in our favor. Like, you look at the dollar yen, the pound yen, the drawdowns on those didn't even happen. I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? Good problem to have, but it just never even came. That's actually why, Darwin, We just take the trades at market. We don't wait for an entry on the COT trades, because that does a lot of the winning weeks don't even give you a limit order entry. They just go, right? And those typically are the best weeks. Like this is one of the better weeks. And yeah, you're going to miss trades if you try to do that a lot. Now, can you still take limit trades? Yeah, I think that's a smart idea. So what you're doing is great. Not complaining. That's a great thing to do. I just think you will miss out on a lot of good weeks if you don't have at least the basic, 6 trades at market on Sunday night. But yeah. So hope that logic makes sense. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and put the COT report away. And then, like I said, you'll get, for those of you that are new and signed up this week, you'll get your COT report signals sometime this weekend. I might even send them out this afternoon. If I have the time late this afternoon, I might send them out. Either way, just plan on getting them. And then you'll be able to take these after Tokyo opens at 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. All right, guys, so let's move our attention over here to price action. And I do want to see if we can grab a trade that we can have sit in our account over the weekend. But let's look at some of the other trades we posted. This CAD Frank just hasn't been high enough to trigger. So some of you may have canceled this one. I think we talked about how you could cancel it because it never triggered. I still have it open. Again, if it's cluttering your account, you can just close it. But I still think it's worth keeping into next week. So I'm going to do that. This NZD Frank, yeah, this one we can cancel now. Well, I have hope that the market's going to come up, and I know that this is going to be a great area to sell when that happens, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep it. So maybe we'll just cancel this one at least. But hey, right direction, right? Definitely still going down. But let's go ahead and just cancel this one. Let's see. Let me just put a note in here. Okay, and then also I wanted to just tell everybody on the COT trades. Here, let's actually take a picture of this real quick. David says, have I ever considered to enter on the ADX indicator? Here, 1 second. Let me do this and I'll tell you. So I've actually, this might be surprising to you guys because I've traded 10 years. I've actually never used the ADX indicator. I know about it. I know what it is. I had some, when I worked for another Forex prop firm before, I had a lot of, I guess, coworkers that used the ADX indicator. But I never really got into it. So you might actually know more than I do about ADX. But if David, if you want to send me an email and just tell me your thoughts on maybe how we could use the ADX indicator in addition to the COT to find confluence and confirmations, that's awesome. I'm always open to that kind of stuff. Okay, so traders, we just closed our COT trades. Eight pips. Okay, cool. See, Craig says real quick, is 1% for this week COT report trades only decent, or did I make a mistake? Risk 0.75 on 50K challenge. No, so I don't make recommendations on your lot size. However, I do trade. If you want to know what I do, I trade 0.75% per trade on my lot size on prop accounts. And on personal funds, I do 1% per trade. I want to try to get smarter though. Next summer, I'm thinking about maybe in the summertime, maybe like July, just go a 0.5% or something like that. But I don't want to mess with the strategy a lot. So for now, my plan is just to continue at 0.75%. Especially right now, as we start to get into some better months. These are August, September, October, November are generally better financial months. So I I don't want to miss out on some of the big weeks that are coming. This was a good week, and we're going to have more good weeks in the coming months, and consecutive good weeks too. And, we don't want to miss out on those, right? Yeah, you can risk 1% per trade. Just know if you're taking 6 trades and you risk 1% and all of them lose at the same time, most prop firms aren't going to allow a 6% loss in a single day, right? So consider that. That's the big consideration why I do 0.75% per trade, right? So yeah, 1% overall profit for the week. Oh yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, if you can make 1% a week, which is what the COT report's done for the last 2.5 years, you're sitting really good. If you can make 1% a week, that's really, really good. Yeah. Ask any financial expert out there, and if you can make 1% a week, that's amazing. So that's why don't undercut the COT report, because even though it has losing weeks, I would never underestimate it, because when it has really good weeks, the profits can really just come in, right? And that's what's going to make up for losing weeks and things like that. So it's a fantastic little strategy as long as you're willing to look at that long-term perspective. All right, guys, so let's go to that 15-minute chart, and let's start at, if you guys have currency pairs that you're already looking at, let's take a look at what you've got. But for now, I'm just going to go on my 15-minute chart and look for some trend structures and kind of go from there. See if we can find a break. This is what I'm looking for on the Aussie franc. I do want to, if this thing does start breaking up, like right here, we want to be alerted to that. So I'm going to put in a little alert here. These are quick. I can set those up really quickly, and that way, if something changes in the market, I know when it's happening. Missed the Aussie CAD. Let's go back to that. Oh, this right here. Are you talking about when this thing came up? I don't know. That must have been a news event or something like that. That was yesterday. I wasn't really trading that much yesterday, to be honest. Here's this trade. I haven't talked a lot about this one just because it sounds like most people missed this one. It looks like it triggered during that during rollover. So again, it just depends on if your broker got you in or not. So anyway, this one is pretty much close to its target at this point. So anyway, I know it's probably a point of pain for a lot of people, so let's delete it. And let's just find a better one. Let's find something even better, right? It is very frustrating, though. I do relate when a trade doesn't trigger because of rollover, or for whatever reason. It's not a fun feeling, especially when it would have been a good trade. Okay, we're going to leave that one there. Okay, here's the CAD yen. This guy had a little trend right here. Well, this could be lining up, actually. Yeah, let's investigate this one. So why is this kind of what you're looking for? Because you've got a trend. You've got 1, 2, and I would even say 3 right here, 3 points of engagement, and then you have a 4th point right here. Really, the way you want to do this, by the way, is you want to put this, if you're going to go through a wick like that, you want to put each one at the body if you can. So yeah, I'm going on that body right there. So I can delete that one. Going on the bodies. And then this one on the body. So you got 3 points of engagement. This one's held pretty stout though. It broke its trend line right here. Not in a very aggressive way, which is a little bit of a sign, just so you know, that's something you want to look for. It's a little clue. So it didn't break real aggressively. And now it's trying to come back up. But at the same time, even though it's trying to come back up, it's coming up in a weakened state. Okay. So it might be a little more tricky. You can trade it. It's just a little trickier to find the right liquidity zone to sell at. So a lot of the times with this one, it doesn't necessarily stop at the old high like it did here. It just actually went above it. It actually broke above this high. So a lot of times you have to be sneaky and go back in time and find out if there's liquidity, say like right up there. We can do that. Oh yeah, sure enough, there it is. It's yeah, back here. So we might want to consider looking at a zone up here, potentially. One quick thing that has me just a little worried, makes me want to kind of move on from this trade. Once this market got up to this high, up back over here, it did pull back pretty significantly. However, it made these lows that are much higher than these lows over here. And so, you know, we're forming higher lows. It makes it look like this market wants to continue, it makes it looks like the market just wants to continue higher, basically. Does that make sense? Because you're getting higher lows that are much higher than these previous lows. The market's coming back up to retest this liquidity zone, and it appears that it's just here to stay. And so you want to be a little bit more cautious with selling at those places when the market slowly approaches a resistance. If it's slowly marching there, that means it's got an army with it. If it goes there really quick, you know, it can usually if it goes there quickly and then just breaks down, I mean, that's just a sign that it, you know, it's not a good, um, like that it doesn't have an army with it, if that makes sense. It's just going to pull away quickly. So we could use some of these indicators to see if there's, you know, some order blocks up here. It does appear that there's some stuff up here. I might consider that. I'm really not going to go with this area. You know, I'd honestly be interested in something like this up here for my sell. But you have to go back even further in time to find that. Yeah, right here's a good spot. This is actually a really good spot. You got some good things up here, actually. Yeah, whatever took place in here is definitely liquidity. And let's actually extend these out. And then I would also argue that this is it right here. Yeah, you could definitely look at sentiment. Definitely something you can look at. And sentiment, I'm sure, probably suggests that it's probably going to keep going up. So you want to be careful with just jumping into a sell right now, because most people are probably already selling. And the next area, from what we are looking at as far as price action goes, it does appear that those two purple areas are the places you want to sell. So I wouldn't sell this right now, guys. CAD yen's a dangerous thing to sell. And you really don't have solid liquidity until here or here. And both of those are, you got 40 pips away to that one, and you've got 85 to the next one. So honestly, I don't think it's even I know it broke its trend line. I know that, but it doesn't look very good. I'm just going to put it out there. It's a little bit dangerous to look for a reversal. So we just continue on, right? Just continue on until we find something that we want, actually. Okay, here we go. So here's the Euro CAD. This is a very aggressive move to the downside, different from the franc yen or CAD yen, whatever we're looking at. Very aggressive move to the downside. That's actually a good thing for us, because if we're being aggressive, then tells us, oh, hey, they mean it, right? So that's not really a trend, because that's just 2 points of engagement. Let's see, do I have a trend over here? Does this count? Yeah, I'm still pushing it though on that one. Do it maybe if I extend out further. Not really. Okay, so honestly, I'm not gonna mess with this one just because I don't really have a solid trend to work with. Again, I'm gonna be pretty particular about these types of setups. Yeah, I don't try to be very particular. Okay, here's the euro yen. This is similar to that franc yen. Let's see, that's actually just a trend that's holding right now. Let's put an alert on this though. Let's put an alert maybe right there if it breaks that line. I'd like to know that. And then we could look for, if it breaks through here, then I could look for a little bit of a retrace back to this, and then something like that would be what you want. Darwin's, the points of engagement has to occur before the break or after the break. Is it still valid? Yeah, so you do want it before the break. Good question. Yeah, so, and this technically already did have I'd say that wick right there does count as a point of engagement. And who knows, maybe this actually goes up a little bit more and then comes down. We'll see. Either way, I've got an alert ready to go here, so we'll just wait for that to set up. But in the meantime, let's try to find a better setup. A little bit of a better trade. Okay. Here's the euro dollar. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Ah, dang, this is a good one. So this was a good one. So you can see this right here, the pound Aussie broke its trend right here. And this actually was very robust, because not only did it break the trend, but on that same move, this same move broke structure here, but it also broke structure here. And so when that happens, we've talked about this before, when you have a market that's very robust, so if it breaks structure, not only from a trend standpoint, but also it's breaking, it's resistance or support, then it's being very aggressive. And usually any pullback that the market gives you is going to be bought up. And that's exactly what happened on that one. So those are nice if you can find it. This is one that we looked at the other day. Looks like this did perfect. This was perfect. You got 3 points of engagement, and all of these were retracements back to the trend line, basically, or retracements back to liquidity. That's what you want to look for, stuff like that. That's awesome. So let's see if we can do this. So I'm just looking for something that's recently, if I can find something that's got a recent break, that's what we want to go with. Which I don't have a lot right now, to be honest. I might have to go out to a higher time frame, which might be fine, but I might have to go out to a higher time frame to get what I need. Wow, that dollar yen just keeps going, guys. That's crazy. I'm not regretting that we closed out. Well, I mean, we caught over 300 pips on that trade this week, but it's just crazy to see it just keep going. All right, so I'm gonna keep looking, but I'm gonna try to look at this from a higher time frame perspective, because I'm not seeing a lot of setups lining up right now on a 15 minutes. So I do need to kind of go out to an hourly sometimes to see what else is going on. Look at that. That's nice right there on the Aussie CAD. I think this is the trade you were talking about, Brooks, right? On the hourly. That's genius. That is literally what you want right there. Yep, nice work. Did you catch that one? That's awesome. That is so cool. So it broke its trend line right here, and then it just popped and retested the old trend, and then it's off to the races. It's perfect. Literally every day, give me one of those. That's what you want. Oh, you missed it though. Okay. Hey, but good practice, right? Okay, so what else? What else do we have here? Anyway, guys, I'm just trying to go through here, trying to go through my process. So I know I may not be talking a lot, or I may not be. I'm just trying to be focused on the charts here. Trying to look for what we're trying to find a setup for us. Okay, there's that one. This was nice back here. That pullback right there, nice. Okay, so here's that EuroCAD. We looked at this, we skipped it on a 15-minute. Let's see on the hourly if it looks any different. So on the hourly, you have another trend line right here that was a little bit more bigger in perspective. And this one appears to have worked out like a charm. So it started to crash into its own trend line right through here. And when it starts traveling along the trend line, it's a recipe of disaster, right? For disaster. And that's exactly what happened. Pulled back here today. It's too bad we didn't capture that, but yeah, that pretty much fell apart. Is there something else we can do with this? I wouldn't do anything else at the moment unless you want to. No, it's not really a trend line. So this is it. It's pretty much over at this point. The opportunity for us to get in is pretty much over. Okay, here's the Euro franc. And so far that's just holding its trend line up, but that could easily break. And if it does, let's get alerted. So let me go ahead and place an alert here. And it's just quick. I just right click and press alert, and then it does that for me. And we've got an alert on that Euro Yen that we're waiting on to see if it triggers. Okay, this is interesting actually. So this is the Euro dollar on an hourly. And so with this one, you have a nice trend line here, and it broke this trend line. And it's pretty robust actually. It even broke it pretty much broke above this. But notice how quickly the market got sold off from that zone. That's not a good sign. That's not really, really good. So I know that this would be your classic setup, but since this created a break of structure, the price action has not been what you want to see. You have a huge wick here at the top. After that, major move to the upside, it looks like the market just went up to sell a bunch, and then it just went right back down. So not a great sign, not a good look on the euro dollar for a buy. It's actually a better look for a sell. In fact, you could almost say that, and let's delete all this stuff, you could almost say that since that development, you've actually got a little bit of a trend going on right there that's broken. So I'm going to skip that one. I'm not super interested in it. This pound Aussie is definitely a buy. If we can get a return, if we can get up, if it's possible to get a pullback on this, I'd love to buy this. So we could, if we wanted to, we could place a trade here. What we would do instead is we would say, okay, here we have a nice little trend line. Let's circle this up on the pound Aussie. And this thing broke right here, right? So we could look for a buy re-entry, through this general area. Let's see if there's liquidity in there. Yeah, sure enough, we've got 2 in there on the order block detector, a couple in there from that, some old liquidity down here, and then yeah, that just makes it messy. So this is just kind of the area I was focusing on, pretty much this right here. I might do that. So I actually might come back to that one because that does have what you want to see. Let's see, it has another trend right here that's holding up, right? So you have a trend back here. Well, let's see. You have to, that kind of pushes it a little bit there. That's better. There you go. So you got this guy that's holding up, you have a trend right here on the pound Aussie, right? And it touched right there. So all of this is good price action. Nothing would tell me that we should be scared about. This is just smooth. This is very smooth price action right here. This is good stuff. So yeah, you could remember that big overall trend line right there, and a pullback into here would be, oh, so ideal. That's a good RR and everything. So we'll probably place that trade. I do want to just take a look at some of these others real quick, and see if there's another setup brewing. But let's just give it a second here. I want to look at some of these other pairs. So pound Aussie will definitely place a trade unless you guys find something else. Feel free to participate that way. If you find something you want me to look at, can do that. But it does seem like there's not as many setups right now, which is fine. That's totally cool. You just kind of work with what the market gives you, right? Oh, let me actually go back to that. This USD yen is interesting. It's or USD franc is interesting. It appears to be this is called a pennant pattern right here. You've got this market kind of compressing. It's just kind of compressed. And usually if these things are preceded by a move up like this one is, they usually wind up going higher. So for me, I'm kind of hoping that the COT report gives us another buy signal on the USD franc this week. If it does, we could be in for a really good week with the COT report. So I'm kind of hoping those Kiwi yens come back out as trades. I hope the USD franc's another trade next week, because this could be, honestly, since we know the banks have a buying interest on the USD franc right now, since it looks like this, tells me that the banks have been just buying up every dip right now in hopes that eventually they're going to get their massive move to the upside. So my guess is that manipulative move right there was probably just banks right there. Yeah, let's see. We'll find out. So we'll find out in a few hours, or this afternoon or tomorrow, if what the banks are doing with this. That's awesome. Okay, let's continue. Okay, that's pretty much it, guys. So the best trade I see lining up per our price action rules is this one right here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. You've got a nice overall trend here, a nice break structure here. Yeah, so you know, a pullback in here would be good if we can get it. We'll see. It might be a little difficult, but I think it's definitely worth a trade. So, and then how do you place a target on this? So this is what the trade would look like. So you go ahead and enter here, and then you stop out there, and you let this thing ride. But how far do you let it go? This is kind of tough because you have to go back in time to find old structures so that you can figure out a target. So let's see if we can even find that. Oh man, when was the last time the market was out this direction? It's pretty much at some pretty big highs right now. Okay, here you go. So here's how you do this, guys. So here's this nice little structure right here, basically where the market's at. And there is some liquidity right up in here. I would also argue that that's something worth looking at. And then it looks like this is something here. And even that's, wow, all of that's kind of something. So there's a lot, but basically those are liquidity zones. And you can, yeah, even the Sonar Lab's saying the same thing that I'm saying. Okay, so Sonar Lab's saying more these two guys. In fact, let's just delete mine because we're pretty close. Those are your liquidities right there. So let's try to go to that next level. I'd say this one up here as the target on the pound Aussie. So now let's go back to where we are. So now you've done your homework to see where this market, like how much room does it have to potentially go? Looks like we could go maybe to there, potentially. We might want to revisit this trade at some point. So let's zoom in. Like you may want to consider closing some of the profits around 2 to 1 or 1 to 2, I mean. But it looks like 1 to 5 right there would be pretty good as well. And it could be on its way up already. We don't even know if we're going to get triggered, guys, but I'm not going to enter now. I want to get a really good price, basically. So let's get a good price and then let's enter there. So this is what our trade looks like overall. That's pretty big. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and post this opportunity. This is not going to trigger tonight, guys. It's not going to trigger on the weekend. It's going to trigger sometime next week. And we didn't have a lot of trade setups today. So this is basically all we have to work with. Yeah, this is all we have. Oops, let's do this. There we go. Okay, cool. I will tell you, those COT trades were nice this week. It really, I know, we had some bad weeks in July that we're still recouping from, but it was a nice refresher to have. I'm just grateful for those, I can't remember how much I made, but I think it was like $3,000 or $4,000 on my 200K accounts, which was awesome because in July I lost, I think on my 200K accounts I lost like 8,000 something dollars. So I got basically half of that back this week, which was awesome from the COT trades. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm hoping that we can just continue this momentum. Hoping we can just kind of continue this momentum into next week. Get some consecutive winning weeks with the COT report. All right, guys. So I'm just posting this trade. All right, cool. It's going to be a buy limit order. So don't get in at market. I mean, you can. It's probably not a terrible idea to get in at market, but your RR ratio is going to be a lot better if you can wait for it to execute. So we're going to get in if the market comes back down to 1.94628, and we're going to take our profits at 1.98019, and we're going to stop out at 1.93937. Cool. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that looks good. And there might be an opportunity to get in, like if this breaks this structure up here, which it looks like it might, if it breaks that line, you know, there might be, you might want to be a little more aggressive about getting in because it may not pull back that far. So we'll monitor that into next week. I'm not going to do anything else right now. I'm just going to place this trade and leave it alone. But I'm quite content with this entry right here. That's going to be, if we can get that, if this market can pull back into here, oh man, that's ideal. That is so ideal. If you can get that, that's awesome. All right, guys. So I think that's about it. So we're gonna, like I said, plan on your COT trades coming out this weekend. You'll get them right here for those of you that are new. You'll see them right here on the Telegram channel. So they'll look like, you have to go back to last weekend, but this is it right here. It'll look like this is the report. It'll tell you, you know, here's your top 6 trades. You'll have your subsequent stop losses for each one that you can take. And I don't plan on changing the way I trade it at all next week. So all that's going to stay the same. But what I am going to continue to do is back test, you know, whether or not it makes sense to continue with a trailing stop or not. That we will, you know, continue to look into. And I want to see if we can improve that a little bit more. So, all right, guys, we'll have a fantastic Friday and have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Thanks for coming.